from the notes. There's an idea, sorry, the two questions that I'm going to have only one here. The second one I think is actually inclusive in the first one. There's an idea that if you are not sure about which master to take MBA as it teaches you everything. What do you think?
Bad idea.
Bad idea? Why?
Everything is nothing. So if you try to go to MBA and then try to learn everything, that's nothing. I think if you want to be in general management and you want to see the big picture, you want to have disposals, different things, and you want to, okay, sometimes you are not so sure about, which industry you want to be in, which job you want to be in. And MBA is an opportunity for you to explore different career paths and different opportunities after school, but you don't know even whether MBA or Master of Finance or Master of Accounting is a good fit for you, then don't do it.
Don't do it if you're not sure, you said. But again...
But I think the MBA, for the most part, is good for anybody that is looking to do like German management in German. Certainly you can have some specialists in this concentration, but if you want to have wide exposure, see the big picture, have different exposures, then there's a good option. It's not the only one. But I don't know, if you don't even know if you want to do a Master of Accounting or MBA, then I don't know. You start with.
As what our Harvard MBAs shared earlier, a lot of people go to school without knowing what they want to do. So therefore, they hope to get this exposure to general management so that they can spin up into operation if needed to, if they can spin up into marketing, or they can spin up into finance. And so what would you say to that? Because a lot of people
I think at least you have to have an interest in management.
You should have an interest in management.
And you should have an aspiration to run something sometime.
I see.
But if you do something like Master Accounting, you tend to be a technical person. That is different, right? I mean, it doesn't have to be like an absolute no, but I tend to say no.
Okay, thank you, Eddy.
Let me add to that. If you have to ask that question now, I think you should stop everything and look at a person that you want to be in 10 years. Okay? Look at who you want to be like in 10 years and ask that person how they got to where they are. You don't look at a master's or MBA lightly like that. You just, okay, it has to serve a purpose. I have friends that went to school without knowing what they're going to do after the MBA. And a lot of them have chosen a career that doesn't even require an MBA. One has gone into charity. They do charity work on a global basis. In fact, what she needs was an international relations degree. Right? So if you have to ask that question, then you started out wrong. Just stop and look at someone who's 10 years older or 20 years older and find that person that you want to be like, that mentor or that a mirror, and say, okay, well, how do I become that person? What did that person do to get to where he or she is? And then work your way backward. If it requires an MBA, what kind of MBA? If it requires a master's degree, I'm not sure what kind of master's degree either. You have to work your way backward, and then you have your answer.
So I guess that question, actually, the answer actually answers some of the response to the questions here about which one is better, MBA or International Professional Certificate, CFA, CMA. And then the second part here, is it okay if just to take MBA at normal school, such as in Vietnam or Thailand? This is probably a different question for the panel, because all of us here actually have MBAs from the States, but yes, probably Eddy, from your experience.
Yeah, it's not that important. In fact, we hire people from University of Hawaii. We have a great MBA program in Vietnam. There are a couple of programs in Thailand. There are programs in Singapore that partner with Stanford, Chicago, or Northwestern, what have you. And in Beijing, they have partnerships with great schools. So it's to us over time, it's not that important. We recognize that in a place like Vietnam, the competition to get an investment job doesn't necessarily mean every single MBA from Stanford or Harvard or MIT coming into your door and giving you the application. It doesn't mean that at all. So you need to step back and say, okay, if I want to get that job, who's applying to that job? Right? If you're going to go to New York and get a job at Morgan Stanley or Goldman Sachs, you know the person submitting the resume is going to have an MBA from a top school. So if you graduated from a non-top school, you know that your probability of getting in is probably low. So I think you have to look at it from that perspective. So it's not necessarily bad or it's not necessarily good. It's looking at around and say, okay, what is the practical and the probability of getting my resume to be read and the door to be opened for me to come in the environment that you're in the competition, in the area, the competitiveness of the job that you're going after. That's the key thing to look at. So I wouldn't worry too much about the fact that you have to go to the US or Europe to get the top MBA program. I think you should look back and say, okay, where do you want to work, where do you want to be, and who's applying to that job, and what do they have that makes them more special than you, and how do you become more competitive relative to that person.
Thank you, Eddy. And then I have a question here for Kathryn and also Eddy here. I'm an engineer graduated from Ho Chi Minh University of Technology. Do you think that the deeply understanding about technology is a strength when applying MBA program? Because technology is an effective tool to develop entrepreneurship, big data world, for example. Technology will give you an edge to get into MBAs if you really understand technology. What do you think?
That's a great question, and I think it goes back to what the earlier panel was talking about, that when you apply, it's sort of a very holistic application. It's sort of your schooling, your work experience, and you're also going to think about who you're applying against. So a lot of actually engineers pursue MBAs. Not uncommon. I'd say probably 20% of my classmates are engineers, and they bring a great perspective to class. And when the admissions committee was reading their applications, they respect and understand engineers. I think it's an incredible point of view to bring to an MBA program. However, at the same time, though, I don't think it necessarily gives you an edge per se, because I think there are a lot of people with technology backgrounds who are applying for MBAs. I think long-term it's a great thing for you in your career, but you may not be the only one doing that. And some of the best advice that was actually ever given to me when I was applying is you've really got to ask yourself 3 different questions. One, if a lot of people are applying from your firm or company, how do I differentiate myself from everyone else from that company? 2, in this case, how do I differentiate myself from all the other engineers? And then 3, how do I differentiate myself from all the other applicants? And so rather than just thinking, oh, because I'm an engineer, I'll stand out, it's like, well, what about me being an engineer? What have I learned from this education that makes me truly different? Rather than just thinking your credentials will make you different, because you've got to remember thousands of people are applying, and there's someone else out there who probably has even better credentials than you do. So it's all about how do you tell your story that I think really makes you stand out.